to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
Hello and welcome to Mad About Superheroes, Superhero Rewind. Today we hit the rewind button back to 1978 and revisit Superman the movie. Superman the movie, released in 1978, is based on the DC Comics superhero and is the first of 4 installments in the Superman film franchise, starring Christopher Reeve as Superman. The original film was directed by Richard Donner, who was hot off the success of his previously directed film, The Omen. The original screenplay was written by Mario Puzo, writer of The Godfather. But the screenplay underwent several rewrites by many writers. Donner brought on fellow collaborator Tom Mankiewicz to rewrite the script, and he shaped it into what ended up on screen. Though Superman the movie and Superman 2 were being shot simultaneously, focus was shifted and prioritized to finishing Superman the movie, as costs were running extremely high. On the planet Krypton, scientist Jor-El, a member of the Kryptonian High Council, sentences criminals General Zod, Non, and Ursa to the Phantom Zone.
You will not down before me, Jor-El!
He warns the Council of Krypton's impending doom, but they are dismissive and warn him not to incite panic. But Jor-El is right, and before the planet's ultimate end, he and his wife Laura send their infant son Kal-El to Earth, where his unique physiology grants him superhuman abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Kal-El's spaceship crash lands in Smallville, Kansas. He's found by Jonathan and Martha Kent. The Kents quickly realize the boy they found is very unique. They adopt him and name him Clark. As Clark grows up, he struggles to hide his powers. Jonathan believes Clark was sent to Earth for a special purpose.
And there's one thing I do know, son, and that is you are here for a reason.
Sadly, Jonathan dies from a heart attack, and a teenage Clark discovers a green glowing crystal in his spacecraft remains. This leads him to the Arctic, where the crystal constructs the Fortress of Solitude, echoing Krypton's design. Inside, Jor-El's hologram reveals Clark's true heritage. Several years later, Kal-El emerges in a blue and red suit bearing the House of L's crest. He's cautioned by Jor-El against changing human history. At the Daily Planet in Metropolis, Clark becomes a reporter and is immediately attracted to star reporter Lois Lane. Clark also meets photographer Jimmy Olsen and editor-in-chief Perry White, who teams him up with Lois. As the duo get to know each other, they are accosted by a mugger, and Lois antagonizes the situation.
I guess I must have fainted.
Later, Lois ends up in trouble again aboard a helicopter that gets entangled while trying to fly off the roof of the Daily Planet. Clark notices the commotion from bystanders and sees the entangled aircraft. He makes a quick change of attire, rushes into action, and his superheroic alter ego is introduced to the world, and more importantly, to Lois Lane.
Easy, miss. I've got you.
You've got me! Who's got you?
After rescuing Lois from the helicopter accident, he uses his powers in public acts of heroism, including getting a small cat out of a tree. His heroics gain him immediate fame as the Cape Wonder. Perry wants more information on this fantastical new hero. Later, Lois interviews the newsworthy sensation and learns his true intent.
Why are you here? There must be a reason for you to be here.
Yes, I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
During the interview, he decides on taking Lois on a flight, after which she names him Superman. Meanwhile, criminal mastermind Lex Luthor and his lackeys Miss Tessmacher and Otis discover a U.S. military missile test system, and they plot to target the San Andreas Fault with reprogrammed missiles. Suspecting Superman will intervene, Lex identifies a Kryptonian meteorite lethal to Superman. Lex retrieves the kryptonite and lowers Superman to his lair, revealing his plan to sink the western U.S., making his desert land prime real estate. He weakens Superman using the kryptonite, and informs him of the other misdirected missile set for Hackensack, New Jersey.
Lex, my mother lives in Hackensack.
Concerned for her mother in Hackensack, Ms. Tessmacher frees Superman, urging him to first stop the eastbound missile. He sends the first missile to space, but misses the westbound missile, which triggers several earthquakes in California. endangering landmarks like the Golden Gate Bridge and the Hoover Dam. Superman counteracts the devastation by mending the fault line. As Superman rescues others, Lois gets trapped in her car by an aftershock, suffocating before he can save her. Distraught Superman disregards Jor-El's warning against altering human history. Heeding Jonathan's belief in his purpose, he flies around the Earth, reversing time to prevent Lois's death and the missile's destruction.
You know what happened to me while you were off flying around?
Lex and Otis are incarcerated, and Superman soars off, up, and away, into the sunrise. Many actors were considered for the role of Clark Kent Superman, such as Christopher Walken, Nick Nolte, and James Caan, to name a few. The most interesting of actors to be considered, in my opinion, was Lyle Wagner, who co-starred as Steve Trevor alongside Linda Carter in the 70s Wonder Woman TV series. Wagner was also considered to play Batman in the 1966 series, but lost the role to Adam West. Arnold Schwarzenegger lobbied for the role, but wasn't really taken seriously. Can you imagine Superman with an Austrian accent? If cast, he would have most likely been dubbed over with another voice actor. Old Arnie just wasn't at the height of his superstardom in the late 70s. Big-name actors Robert Redford, Warren Beatty, and Burt Reynolds were offered the lead role, but they all turned it down. After a long laborious search, a relatively unknown at the time, Christopher Reeve was cast as Superman. Though Superman was already a shining star since the late 1930s, and other actors had played the part, Reeve brought something completely fresh to the role, especially the duality of the character. Right down to his posture, his bumbling, mild-mannered reporter Clark Kent persona is visibly transformative into the confident, heroic figure of Superman. To his credit, Christopher Reeve refused to wear a muscle suit and worked out vigorously to get into superhero shape before filming began. One of the essential components to Superman's character is his humanity. Though he's an alien from Krypton, he was born and raised by human parents in Smallville, Kansas. He has these incredible powers, but what really makes him Superman is his humanity, and Christopher Reeve embodies that aspect of the character like no one before or after. The film's special effects were groundbreaking at the time, especially the flying effects and the wire work, which is another aspect of the character that Reeve is essential in bringing to life with his precise movements and mannerisms. Reeve and co-star Margot Kidder as Lois Lane have amazing chemistry. Though the damsel in distress routine is a bit dated, Kidder's performance as Lois, star reporter of the Daily Planet, is absolutely on point as a feisty, career-driven woman. Dean Hackman as Lex Luthor is perfect casting. He delivers his diabolical lines with such relish and delight. He really seems like he's enjoying playing the eccentric villain, who brings the Man of Steel to his knees with a little help from Kryptonite. The key players are backed up by an incredible ensemble cast of supporting actors, including Marlon Brando as Jor-El, Ned Beatty as Otis, and Valerie Perrine as Miss Tessmacher. The awesome score composed by John Williams further enhances the film's inspirational themes and is instantly recognizable as the music from Superman the movie. Superman the movie is without a doubt one of the most influential comic book movies of all time. You can see its influence as recently as Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman. Superman the movie was very well received critically and financially upon its 1978 theatrical release. It also inspired other attempts at big-screen adaptations of comic book heroes. However, Flash Gordon, Swamp Thing, Supergirl, and Howard the Duck, to name a few, failed to further legitimize the genre. All the aforementioned films feature campy tones and tongue-in-cheek approaches over the more dramatic tone and earnest approach of Superman the movie. Director Richard Donner understood that verisimilitude would play an essential part in Superman's success on the big screen. After Donner's departure, the Superman films also began to shift in tone. Though Superman 2, released in 1981, was another bona fide box office smash hit, Superman 3 favored comedy relief over the dramatic storytelling of its predecessors. And Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, was a well-intended attempt to return Superman to his former glory cinematically. But as the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Nowadays, it's practically expected that the first film adaptation of a superhero IP is a setup for a trilogy, or will be part of a pre-existing continuity. But back in '78, Superman the movie was in a league all its own, by sequel-baiting audiences with the introduction of General Zod. Superman the movie and Christopher Reeve's performance as the Man of Steel are so iconic that a few attempts at keeping the continuity going can be seen in DC Comic Books' Superman 78, Superman Returns, and most recently in the flopbuster The Flash, which also saw the return of Michael Keaton as Batman.
I'm Batman.
I was thrilled on Christmas morning of 1985 when I ripped open a present and saw a Superpowers Superman action figure inside. It was one of my favorite childhood toys. Whenever I played with my Superman action figure, I often acted out scenes inspired by Superman the movie. Over the decades since its release, I've owned Superman the movie on various home video formats, and I've collected various related Superman memorabilia. And in my very own Fortress of Solitude, I have a dedicated section that displays my appreciation for the Man of Steel. For a lot of us kids back in the day, the Super Friends cartoon series was a gateway into the DC Comics pantheon of superheroes. By the mid to late 1980s, I began collecting comic books heavily. Though I sporadically picked up issues of Superman comics, I wasn't all in until John Byrne's Man of Steel limited series. Byrne's run on Superman felt like a modern 80s continuation of Donner's and Reeves' Superman. Superman the movie had a lasting effect on me, starting at a very young age. I can't remember exactly when I first saw it, but I almost never missed it when it aired on network television. In the 80s, Superman 2 was my favorite because of its action-packed climactic battle between Superman and Zod. Today, epic superhero battles are par for the course in comic book movies, but back then it had never been done before. As I got older, I grew to appreciate Superman the movie more and more, because it perfectly captures the optimism of the title character. It's a heartfelt, earnest portrayal of all its characters, and has immense respect for the source material. Though I still extremely enjoy Superman 2, Superman the movie is my absolute favorite in the original series. Christopher Reeve's portrayal of Clark Kent and Superman is a major reason for my enthusiasm for those films. Even the weaker entries in the franchise, Christopher Reeve's performance is consistently great throughout. To many, including myself, Christopher Reeve is the definitive Man of Steel. I hope you've enjoyed this Superhero Rewind. Thanks so much for letting your geek flags fly with Mad About Superheroes.